As many of you all know, I like taking photographs. Not only do I work for the TV station, and I do it for a living, but I'll walk around taking photographs. And I was over here this morning during rehearsal. Then they got done and I got done, and I said, wow. And they looked at me like, that's a good wow, right? Oh yeah, that was a very good wow. Let me introduce our quintet today. We have Brian Harris on oboe. Come on, give him some. We have Ken Hawes on French horn. Jerry Holloway, clarinet. Deborah Hansel Johnson on flute. And of course, we all know our very own Teresa Meeks on bassoon. And again, wow. We'll hear more from them in a bit. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Silver Spring. My name is Brian Hopkins. I am your worship associate du jour, sort of like your Ed McMahon of Johnny Carson. Hey, yo! Wow. I'll tell you, a tough crowd. I'd like to welcome all guests who are probably going to leave now because Emily Harris is in the back, and she's our welcoming, our captain, our what's the welcoming captain? Boy, boom. And she is here to answer any and all of your questions. If you have any questions on Zoom, feel free to type them out, or after the service, feel free to hop on back there, and if she can't answer the questions, she'll find someone who can. Now, as you all may have noticed, if you look around the room, most people are wearing T-shirts, and it's really cool to be able to wear a T-shirt. It's okay. In this morning's service, we will reflect together on the complexity of image assumption and the choices we make that shape how we are perceived in the world. Now it's time for us all to greet one another. If you look over here at this camera, I want you all to give a big wave to those folks on Zoom. Let them know how much we care about them and say hello. Good morning. All right, Zoomers, this is your chance. Turn your cameras on. Let us see your smiling pearly whites. Good morning, everyone. I love to see the smiling faces. That's such a beautiful thing. All right, you guys on Zoom, reach out and type someone. Say hi to other people there. Everybody here in the room, let's greet one another. Wander around, fist bump, high five, say hi. When you hear the music start, it'll be This Little Light of Mine, and we will join in and sing that song. Let's all say hi. Good morning. When are you up there?
Reverend Kristen. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the settled minister of this congregation. It's good to see all of you in your t-shirts. I love any Sunday where I can wear a t-shirt and yoga pants to church. My colleague, the Reverend Katie Romano Griffin, crowdsourced favorite t-shirts from among UU religious professionals and lay leaders. I invoke the spirit of our larger faith as I share their responses. as our invocation today. Y'all, all y'all, abide no hatred. My faith is love. Protect trans kids. #UU values. Support your local queers. Side with love. Not all who wander are lost. Risk is real. My black is blue, but it's BLUU, which stands for Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism. It's a blessing you were born, and it matters what you do. What you know about God is a piece of the truth. What does love require of us? Be more gay, be more queer, be you. Black Lives Matter. Love will guide us. Peace has tried us. Hope inside us will lead the way. You don't have to do it alone. Work hard and be kind. Love thy neighbor, thy homeless neighbor, thy Muslim neighbor, thy black neighbor, thy gay neighbor, thy white neighbor, thy Jewish neighbor, thy Christian neighbor, thy atheist neighbor, thy addicted neighbor. Ban fascism, not books. Love the hell out of the world. Come, let us worship together. I now invite you to rise in body or spirit and join me in saying the words that will appear on the screen in a moment as Brian lights the chalice, symbol of our free faith. Let's rise in body or spirit. May this light warm our hearts with love and caring and guide us in the ways of truth. As we gather here for worship, we pledge ourselves to the endless search for truth, to the right of each to believe as mind, heart, and conscience dictate, to accept the responsibilities this freedom commands, and to implement our belief in the essential worth and dignity of every human being. Won't you be seated as we join in singing our chalice lighting song? All right, everybody, our time for all ages. I invite everyone to remain where you are for this. We are going to do a bit of an imagination exercise. So people make assumptions about us based on what we wear. If this has ever happened to you, raise your hand. I know it's happened to me. So I am going to invite you to imagine that I put on various different articles of clothing or attire, and then we're going to imagine together what people might assume about me if I wore those. So what if I put a crown on my head? What would you assume if I was wearing a crown? Yeah? That I was trying to be like a queen. Yeah. Maybe I just like to pretend I'm a queen if I put a crown on, right? Mm-hmm. Or or I went to Burger King and it was my birthday. That's totally possible. I've done that. Yeah. Okay, so what if I put on those sunglasses that have a little mustache beneath them? Like, what if I put those on? What would you think? Yeah? I'm trying to be disguised, right? Yeah, like Inspector Gadget. I loved when he used to put those on. Maybe I'm just trying to be silly by wearing those. What were you going to say? I was going to say that you're a fun person. Yeah, maybe I'm just a fun person. Yeah. What if I put a baseball cap on, which I will be wearing next Sunday? So next Sunday is the Church of Baseball, in case you didn't know. So come wearing your baseball attire. Anyone else? Yes. That I'm going to a baseball game. I will be wearing an Orioles baseball cap because they're the best team, in my humble opinion. But there are other reasons I could be wearing an Orioles cap, right? Maybe the cap belonged to someone that I loved who died, and I wear it to remember them. I will tell you a funny story. So I lived in Manchester, England for 6 months after college. And when I was on a bus, I saw someone on the bus wearing an Orioles cap, and I instantly thought, oh my gosh, like, they're from Baltimore here in England. And I said, yeah, let's go O's. And they were like, what are you talking about? They said, I just like the duck. Because I was like, it's not a duck. Right? I mean, the new one, I guess I can see how they think it's a duck. But anyway. So what if I had a shawl wrapped around my hair? What if I had a piece of fabric wrapped around my hair? I've called on you a lot, honey. I'm going to try some other people. Yes? You're having a bad hair day. I'm having a bad hair day. That's happened to me before. Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah? Maybe I belong to a conservative religious group. Maybe I belong to a liberal religious group, but I have that as my spiritual practice. Maybe that's possible too, right? Maybe I just don't want to mess up my nice hair. I've done that before. If I'm going out and it's really windy outside and I just did my hair, I might wrap it up, right? There are a lot of reasons people might wrap their hair. Mm-hmm.
Maybe you have a medical reason, such as alopecia, or
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. There are all sorts of reasons people might not want to show their hair, right? So I'm wearing a t-shirt today. Faithfully pro-choice, what? I think it's pretty clear why I'm wearing that t-shirt. It shares what I believe about a particular issue with everyone who sees it. And it can also help other people who believe the same thing to feel less alone because they've seen me wearing a t-shirt that has this on there. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people wear Black Lives Matter t-shirts and show pride colors during June, which is Pride Month in this area. It can really help folks to feel less alone, especially when what the t-shirt says about what we believe is controversial or isn't popular. So here are the takeaways from this time for all ages. The things we choose to wear can communicate things about us to other people. What we wear, how we present ourselves can be a tool that we can use to express ourselves. But it's risky to assume we know things about a person based just on how they look or what they're wearing, because there's all sorts of reasons that they could be wearing what they're wearing. And the most important takeaway is that the things that make us different from one another are beautiful, and no one should have to hide who they are or what they love to try and fit in. So that's the end of our Time for All Ages today. I invite you now into a time of prayer led meditation with words written by the Reverend Lori Walk. Holy One, we are not supposed to talk about hearing voices in our head. That's how rumors get started. But there's a voice, a familiar stranger that we can't seem to turn down or turn off. One that says we're a mess, a mistake, a fool, a fraud. That voice says everyone else has it together. Everyone else's children are well behaved. Everyone else has no trouble following the rules. Everyone else has 3 months of living expenses put back. That voice makes it hard to hear you. So we convince ourselves that it's better to keep our head down. Don't rock the boat. Try to shrink ourselves to fit expectations. Make ourselves small. But the psalmist says that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Of stars and dust, our stories say. Stars and dust. Help us remind each other of that every chance we get. Maybe this is how we better hear you. Amen, and blessed be. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. So if there are any young people who wish to leave the sanctuary and go to our UUCSS Pollinators class, it is a rockin' good time. If there's anyone else who'd like to join them, and of course our volunteers who are gonna go, we will sing you all out now. Our time together is sacred, but now it's time to part. The wheel is spinning together. You're always right here in my heart. So our first reading this morning today is from a 2015 homily titled Abundant Love, written by Casey Slack. They are the senior leader of the Washington Ethical Society right here in Washington, D.C. They write, "Once every 6 to 9 months, my jeans respond to thighs that won't quit by, well, quitting. So I take myself to the one store that sells jeans that fit close to how I'd like them to and buy a new pair. When I'm lucky, I'm in and out in under 30 minutes and walk out with pants basically identical to the ones I'm replacing. When I'm not lucky, I wind up in the fitting room for far too long, and eventually a sales associate starts to try to bring me things. Several times, this has ended in a strange and quite uncomfortable interaction between me and the aforementioned sales clerk. See, that store is always coming out with new versions of jeans that are supposed to have some sort of magic tummy concealing powers. And the sales associates, bless them, just doing their jobs, are often trying to make that a selling point. I'm not always at my kindest or most understanding when I've just tried on several pairs of jeans that don't fit. I'm not mad at these sales associates. I never was. I'm mad at a society that wants me to try to disappear. I'm hurt by a society that wants all of us to hide, to wrap ourselves up in some restrictive physical, emotional, or spiritual construct in order to fit. I am resistant to a society that doesn't see that it isn't just okay that we're not all the same. It is amazing. We talk a lot in our communities about how to be welcoming to folks from all walks of life, how to feel like home for people who have never been home, how to be safe for people so commonly hurt by an unsafe culture. And I'm so glad we do this. But how often do we talk about coming home to ourselves? I know that for me, it's so much easier to be open and accepting and loving toward other people. I have almost endless space in my heart for other people's flaws, perceived or otherwise. I love being with people who have different experiences than I do. I love what I see in others the same way I love flowers. The things other people might find imperfect, I find beautiful. I'm grateful for their variety. I'm the first to push back when a friend or acquaintance is being hard on themselves. I think it's my job to show up for people in their struggles. And some days I wake up and I wish I could just be normal. Some days this body and this life feel like too much. Some days I want a break from being me. I bet we've all had those days. We all have these things, the stuff we hide as best we can and hope nobody notices, the stuff we were taught was wrong about us that would make people not like us, not love us. We are fat and queer and trans and black and brown. We are people who are chronically ill and who experience mental health problems and who interact with the world in a way different from the norm. We are people with bodies and lives that we're supposed to believe are wrong. We're told to hide, to disappear, to blend the best we can, to kill pieces of ourselves so that someone else may think we're okay. But we are okay. We're better than okay. We're beautiful. On days when I wake up unsure that I can handle being myself, there are two simple things I always turn to: lipstick and hip hop. Now, these particular things may not work for you, but hear me out. Lipstick can be armor when I need it to be. I look at myself in the mirror and I'm not ready to be me, but one swipe of bright red reminds me of my strength, my vibrancy, my love of myself. I take the time to decorate my body in general in honor of my love for myself. Writ large, this means I get tattoos and buy clothes I love and in general arrange my presentation in a way that reminds me of who I know myself to be. Maybe I can't feel my divine light that particular morning, but I smooth on some lipstick and I feel like it starts to show back up. Even on my best days, I'm bright and loud for a reason. In a world that wants me to disappear, that spends a lot of time trying to literally get me to take up less space, I refuse. I'm here, I matter, and you will see me. We are, as Psalm 139 says, fearfully and wonderfully made. We are stardust. We are the universe experiencing itself. We are, each of us, a miracle. Here ends the first reading.
Our second reading this morning was written by Reverend Joanna Fontaine Crawford, minister of the Live Oak UU Church in Austin, and it's entitled Fingernails as Faith Development. There was a single mother in the congregation who had 2 young children, a daughter and a son. Now, seeing the painted fingernails of his mother and his sister, the younger boy, wanted to join in on the fun. Oh, how he loved having his fingernails painted. He waved his hands around, giggling with happiness. He loved experimenting with different colors. His delight, however, was cut short when he began being bullied, naturally, at school. His mother shared what was happening with friends at church. Somehow, the word got out to the men in church. The following Sunday, men of all ages showed up at our church with painted fingernails. Amen. Teenagers, business types, old men. Some of them even brought their bottles of polish so that the men who hadn't heard the news could paint their fingernails too. The little boy's face when he saw that, his mouth was an O of wonder. His eyes were lit up with such joy. And mine were too. It was one of the most loving things I'd ever seen. I have no idea what I preached on that day. It didn't matter because the most powerful sermon was happening already out in the fellowship hall with Sally Hansen mauve over polish. That night, he asked his mother about those boys with the painted fingernails. They're Unitarian Universalists, she told him. Are we Universalists as well? Well, I am, she said. He thought about it for several minutes and said, I am one too. In many ways, our congregation, we carefully craft curricula to teach the values of faith. But sometimes the lessons simply appear. That Sunday, all ages learned about nurturance masculinity, the alternative and antidote to toxic masculinity. We learned a new way of being an intergenerational village of raising a child. And it all flowed from compassion, wanting to give a little boy the message that his authentic self is beautiful and worthy of being imitated, even by people much older than he. We are the hands and feet of love, aren't we? And sometimes it's fingernails, too. Here ends the second reading.
22 years ago, this September, I went with new friends I'd made at college to an anti-war march in Washington, D.C. We were demonstrating just 18 days after the attacks on the Pentagon and World Trade Center, trying to dissuade the U.S. government from turning tragedy into war on Afghanistan. My friends and I wanted to be taken seriously, so we wore nice clothes we would have worn to an interview. We made signs and we joined the 20,000 other people on the National Mall. We were approached twice by camera crews who asked us if we were Republicans protesting the path to war. But neither of those crews chose to interview us. I guess we didn't fit the image the media had of anti-war protesters. I had experimented with clothes and makeup all throughout high school within the bounds of what my parents would tolerate. But this was the first time I really thought about the way I was perceived and the image I cultivated as things that actually held power. I had the freedom then to wear what I wanted, and boy, did I commit more than one fashion faux pas in those early years. But I soon came to understand my fashion and my image were more than just a way to rebel or fit in. The way I chose to present myself was a tool I could use to communicate, to express myself, to send a message to the wider world. No one is defined by the way we look, but being intentional about how we present ourselves can feel freeing and fun and even necessary. I think this is especially true for folks like the author of our first reading today, who have had to hide or ignore parts of themselves to stay safe in an intolerant world. When society's obsession with thinness makes it exhausting for people with larger bodies to find a decent pair of jeans, let alone clothes that make them feel really good, clothing, hair color, all of it can become a way to resist society's expectations. And it can become a way that we all can convey our love and support for others. Milwaukee musician Ethan Keller has said, "If you want to be someone's ally but aren't getting hit with the same stones they are, you aren't standing close enough to them yet." As we heard in our second reading, the men at Live Oak UU Church in Austin, Texas, chose to take their stand about as close as they could get to a kid in their congregation who was getting bullied. They wore nail polish because they wanted to give a little boy the message that his authentic self is beautiful and worthy of being imitated, even by people much older than he. Fast forward almost a decade after I'd finished college and seminary, one day I found myself at a bar after a different demonstration. I think this one was Occupy Boston. I was 28 years old, I think, and wearing my clergy collar because I was hungry after hours of demonstrating. And I didn't feel like waiting for a table, and I hadn't had the forethought to bring another shirt to change in afterward. That is a clergy rookie mistake. I got all sorts of strange looks and questions when I sat down at that bar. "Does your church call you mother?" I didn't know pastors could drink. But eventually the person next to me at the bar and I fell into a conversation. He was blown away to learn about my free faith. The symbol I wore around my neck began a conversation that helped one man catch a glimpse of new spiritual possibility far beyond the harmful theology he had deconstructed and left years ago. We are, as Reverend Slack reminds us, fearfully and wonderfully made. We are stardust. We are, each of us, a miracle, the universe experiencing itself. Whether it's with our hands and feet, a business suit or a clergy collar, a t-shirt, or even our fingernails, it is we who must incarnate love into this world. It is we who take love and acceptance and make it flesh for other people to hug and cry with, lean on and laugh with. So let's go be love in the world. Let's show others that their authentic selves are beautiful and worthy of imitation. And let's look darn good doing it.
Let's go be love, right? Cool. This congregation governs itself through the democratic process, calling our own ministers and electing our own leaders. And that's what you guys did last week, right? At GA? Is that? Yeah, okay. Two weeks ago. This is both a great blessing and a great responsibility. UUCSS is free to follow wherever truth, love, and justice lead us together. But we are also responsible for fueling the journey. Everything we do together is possible because of our collective generosity. So let's be generous today. As you can see on the screen, there are lots of ways to be generous with UUCSS. If you are here in person, you can place your offering in the plates when they are passed around. And were there QR codes? I didn't. Okay. Next week, we're gonna join the cool way of paying. We're gonna have QR codes, and you can just zap your phone and cha-ching, off the money goes. And you know, when you pause, you have to hear that cha-ching. Anyhow, in a world of so many transactional relationships, may our offering today remind us that we are all more than individuals, more than consumers. This congregation and our communities thrive when we live out the truth of our connectedness, our independence, our mutual well-being in the Spirit. In that Spirit, the offering will now be given and received. We gather in person and on Zoom for worship every Sunday here at UUCSS. But our church is not only the organization that puts together these services. We are a vibrant collective of volunteers and staff, and we're always looking for volunteers. We are just part of a wider Silver Spring community. We are a member of the Unitarian Universalist Association and a part of the global UU denomination. Today we have 3 announcements. First, as mentioned earlier, an invitation to join us next week for a service called Church of Baseball. What a great name. Next Sunday, everyone is invited to wear your favorite team t-shirt, jersey, baseball cap, maybe bring a glove if you want, just don't bring a ball. And enjoy a service exploring the spiritual lesson of America's favorite pastime. Number 2, all adults are welcome at an in-person book discussion of Fat Talk Parenting in the Age of Diet Culture by author Virginia Soul Smith. We'll have beverages and snacks. The book is available at local libraries in print, ebooks, and also audiobooks. And third, and lastly, all kids are invited to participate in the religious education program this summer entitled UUCSS Pollinators. Also, this is a friendly reminder that all kids need to be picked up at the end of the service. Don't leave your kids behind. Please join me in the words of the chalice extinguishing. Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again.
All right, let's sing hymn. A note about this hymn, the composer of the hymn himself changed the words to this hymn. In the hymnal, if you are familiar with it from there, it was standing on the side of love. He has changed the words to answering the call of love, and those updated words will be on the screen. Let's join in singing. won't you please be seated as you join me in expressing gratitude for Jim Paoletti, our volunteer accompanying us today. Jason Shelton's music, which was that last hymn, is very fun to sing, but boy, the accompaniment parts are hard. So thank you so much, Jim, for learning that for us. My words of benediction today come to us from Darcy Roque. There is too much hardship in this world to not find joy every day. There's too much injustice in this world to not right the balance every day. There's too much pain in this world to not heal every day. Each of us ministers to a weary world. Let us go forth now and do that which calls us to make this world more loving, more compassionate, and more filled with the grace of holy presence every day. Our worship now is ended, and our service begins.